And welcome back to Still Loading, the podcast where we talk about the decline of everything, but mostly video games. My name is Aiden,
And I'm Matt.
and today we got a little treat for you guys. Throughout this whole season, we've kind of ragged on multiple communities, multiple games, multiple sales practices, all kinds of stuff. So we're going to turn it around. Today we're going to tell you about some of our favorite games that people really did not like very much. I know I have a couple on my list that you could probably even bring them up in a community and they'd be like, are you fucking serious? So I'm going to have fun with that. But before we get started with that, I have just a small kind of like gripe I want to talk about. I think you have something you want to talk about too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and go first. Like I said in the last few episodes, I definitely put a lot of research before I talk on this podcast. You know, I try and stay current. If I'm going to bitch about something, I want to know I have all the facts first. I don't like being that half-assed kind of like whatever. A really big topic right now has been remakes. A couple of remakes were announced, and then a couple of remakes were not announced, and people were really pissed about that. I know a lot of people are butthurt. There's going to be no Bloodborne remake. And first off, I don't really care about that. We've talked about how I feel about remakes on the episode about remakes called Remake Hell. So you can check that out. So I'm not going to go too deeply into it, but there are two things that worry me about how much the community is upset about this. The first thing being, well, let's say, so before I say that, I'll say this. What bothers me about it is there's this really famous picture going around the internet right now of The Last of Us. I love The Last of Us, but it's showing, okay, here's the original, here's the remaster, and here's the remake that got announced. They're currently working on this remake. There's an admitted difference in the quality, but not enough for me to lose my shit over. It just doesn't feel valid. Like, why are you spending all this time and money making this game look so realistic instead of just working on other projects? Like, why remake the same game again? Obviously it's a cash grab, but
yeah, this sounds more and more like, see, I didn't play that game. I don't believe in the hype.
You should though.
No, I won't do it. That's been too highly recommended. I know it sounds like I'm being a contrarian dick about it, but no.
I can say this just because I was right there with you. I had really not douchey, but just very, very like their opinions were very mainstream, I'll say.
Okay.
Not to sound like a hipster douchebag, but it's like listening to a BuzzFeed article and they would talk. And one of the things they went on and on about was like, oh, The Last of Us is super good. And I was like, yeah, so I hear, but I'm not going to fucking play it.
No.
I was in the same boat, but I played it and I got to say, it's worth the hype. I have feelings about the second one. I'm not going to talk about that, but don't like that one very much. But the point I'm getting at is like, it doesn't feel like it's valid. Why do this? And this kind of,
Because it works, man. Like we talked about in the last episode, like my main complaint is we're talking about dangerous precedents. Skyrim has set that down, saying that we can re-release the game 4 or 5 times and people will pay for it every time, especially if it has the following that I was going to say that it seems to have, but the following it definitely has. So you can get away with it. Like I said, another dangerous precedent laid down.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm a big Dragon Quest fan. It used to be called Dragon Warrior before they had to change the name. Like, that's how much of a fan I am of that franchise. Back on like Nintendo, basically, or I think not even, just regular old Nintendo was like the first Dragon Warrior game. And then after Dragon Warrior 6, it became Dragon Quest. Or no, I think after Dragon Warrior 7, it became Dragon Quest 8.
That's the one I played, I think.
Yeah, so that's actually a long franchise. But there was this whole thing where they got sued, basically, and they were forced to rebrand. So it became Dragon Quest instead of Dragon Warrior. But so I think it's like Dragon Quest 11 came out like a few years ago. And there's already a remaster of it. And I'm like, that game was on PS4. Like, it looks fine. Like, why would you remaster it? I don't... What?
Yeah, no.
And it blows my mind. And like, this is along the same lines. Like I said, admittedly, if you look up the picture, yes, there's a vast difference. Because we're looking at PS3 graphics versus PS4 graphics versus PS5 graphics. That is the difference. And I get that. It's just not a big enough deal for me to care. And what this kind of leads into for me is like my second thing is that something I have hated hearing throughout all my years of gaming is when people bitch and complain and moan about a game not being realistic. This isn't realistic enough for me to care. This concept is too unrealistic. Like, this is stupid. It's not realistic. The whole point of games is it's not realistic.
Yeah.
And I worry more and more about the franchise, or I guess not the franchise, what's the word I'm looking for? I honestly have no idea. The gaming as a whole, basically.
Okay, cool.
I'm fucking blowing my mind here. Gaming as a whole, is it going to get to this point where people have lost sight of like what fantasy was? Like, are we going to get to a point where we have to have these mega super realistic games constantly?
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be the only thing acceptable? Like, I genuinely worry about that as we get deeper and deeper into this remake hole, where like that's a lot of the big difference is like they're just being remade to look more realistic. And I get it. With a game like Last of Us, it's humans.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sure. Games like Resident Evil, sure, it's humans. Fine, whatever. But I don't think it's as big a deal as it needs to be. And it really worries me. This is just a thought I'm having. I'm worried about the future because, as we talked about in the last few episodes, like, as games get more realistic and you start stretching those graphics, you start pushing it really, really hard, the game quality has gone down tremendously. And if this is the new quota where it has to be quote unquote realistic, is creativity going to be dead? Can we not have like a cool, like, look at this weird fucking like alien race I made because why not? It's like, oh, it's not realistic? You're right. Okay.
Yeah.
It worries me. And I don't know if I'm alone in this. If any of you feel that way, like, let me know. Like, I this might be a me thing. I might be overthinking it. I have no idea, but I genuinely worry.
I think realism has its place for sure. If you're gonna play like Forza, for instance, that game is meant to be a driving simulator. It's meant to be super realistic, and that's a great, no pun intended, that's a great vehicle for that. But no, like, sometimes you want to play like the uber badass who does like 5 backflips and stabs you in the head with a knife. Like, that is also, playing video games is an opportunity to step out of oneself and do something that you couldn't normally do in real life. So yeah, I think your concern is warranted. I don't think every game needs to be like mathematically quantified. Can I do this? Well, sure you can. It's it's a fantasy world made by someone. So
yeah, I mean, I'm sure we all can relate to this. We've had that like what would you be in like this world, or like what would you be in like this show, or like whatever. The thing with all those kinds of arguments, or like not arguments, like discussions basically, is like, well, yeah, in that world I'd be capable of that, so sure, I would want to do this. I would try and do that, like whatever, like I think I'd be this kind of character in that universe or whatever. That's the fucking point. Like, it's like you said, like, it's, you're stepping outside of yourself. Like, I may not be able to do a fucking backflip in real life, but it's fucking cool and I can do it in a game. Like,
yeah, totally. It's not a I don't think it's a positive direction moving in games, and you're kind of putting creativity in a box there. Like, well, what is possible in this universe? Like, it's not this world, man. Like, and that's all the justification I ever need for something. Or, in the conversation you're talking about, like, that you have with other people, like, who would you be in this universe? Like, I feel like as long as you're playing along with the rules established in that world, you're fine. So I wish game developers would lean into that a little bit, like, maybe you can do these things. Maybe you can defy these physics because it's already established in the universe. Don't be afraid to go there, basically.
Yeah, I mean, every good idea, like, came from stepping outside the box.
Totally.
Like, I'm a big fantasy nerd. Like, a lot of the things that Tolkien conceptualized, they were the first of its kind. And now look at them. They are mainstream media things.
Totally.
Like, there's 1,000 variants of elves. There's 1,000 variants of orcs. Like, there's all kinds of stuff that... that was the original, like, hey, I'm stepping outside the box, I'm doing this. Like, same Dungeons and Dragons, like, obviously, like, most things they drew from Tolkien, but now you have, like, Dark Elves, which is, I think there was something in Lord of the Rings about that, maybe, or the Silmarillion, but I don't know for sure.
Tainted elf race, that's what the Elves of Mirkwood became, and also goblins, technically, are either goblins or orcs. Damn, it's been a while since I've read, but
it's same. Yeah.
They're twisted elves.
Yeah,
they've basically fallen into dark power, but I think Forgotten Realms does it better.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of the point, you know.
Yeah.
Just step outside the fucking box. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the last thing I want to say, just along those lines as well, is like, even tabletop gaming has gone that direction where this game built on fantasy. This game built on like, I want to not be myself for a couple hours. You know, there's all these new rules for like wheelchair accessibility and things like that, and it's like, that's fine, man. Like, if your character's in a wheelchair, great. I don't think it is. It's needed though.
Right.
You know, like, why? I guess I don't know. I understand representation's a thing, but you know.
Totally. Like, I believe everyone has the right to feel represented, but at the same token, you shouldn't force someone to you know, I have a friend who uses a wheelchair pretty often. None of the characters she plays deal with that limitation because that's not the character she's playing, you know, like,
Yeah.
it's almost like feeling like, oh, well, you know, that's that step at realism. Like, oh, well, I mean, but you are IRL, so why wouldn't you be in the game? It's like, nah, screw that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel it's necessary. Like, totally great if that's the way you're wanting to role play, but you shouldn't make it feel like everyone has to do it that way.
Yeah, and that's a better way of what I was trying to say. Basically, is like, I think it's great, but I don't. I guess my problem is I hear a lot about like, oh, let's make it enforced. Let's make sure it has to be part of the main rules.
Absolutely not.
Constantly. Like, that's kind of what I mean. So I just worry about that. Like, and so I'm a big fantasy nerd. Like, I want fantasy to be fantasy. I don't like real life very much when I, you know, take a look around. So
Yeah, no.
you know, if
Why
I
would
could be
you?
in a fantasy world, I'd love to. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's all I got to say about that. Like I said, short and sweet. I worry about the future. So
Yeah, same. I've been concerned about the future for a while, hence that break I took. But I'm coming off.
yeah.
I'm no longer on the break. No, 2 video games have pulled me out of the hole. One of which is Total War Shogun 2. I'm on this real big Japanese war kick, I guess. Like, not so much the, you know, anime side of things or things like that, but like Japanese history basically, and like their warfare and things like that. And that game totally scratches that itch for me. It's the most complicated RTS I've ever played.
Yeah.
Like, there's a campaign version where it's all turn-based.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so when you set your economy, when you end your turn, everybody gets, you know, a chance to operate within that time. So it moves through the seasons of the year, and like your economy will grow based on the decisions you made in that turn, and like your army will grow or may not grow yet because it takes more turns to generate these units. Anyway, it's to the point where you can set diplomatic relations with other clans to try to take on, like, did you ever play Risk, the board game?
Yeah, I hate Risk, but
Imagine that with 1,000 more rules.
well, I should clarify. I hate Risk because the RNG. I hate the strategy can be sound, but then the dice fuck you. So
Yeah, no, imagine taking the dice out of it.
yeah, that's enjoyable. Yeah, I actually have a board game similar to Risk. That is, I call it Risk without the dice, pretty much.
Really?
It's kind of the same concept, but it's a Forgotten Realms game, and
Oh, neat.
yeah. It's called Lords of Waterdeep, and
Really?
yeah. So the whole dealio with Waterdeep is like all the lords are constantly vying for power to like be the one true ruler of Waterdeep, basically.
Okay.
And so it's a game of subterfuge, basically.
Okay.
You pick a lord at the beginning of the game, and depending on the number of players, it's either completely random or you'll get like 3 cards and be like, out of these 3, I want to be this lord, whatever.
Cool.
And so each lord has a special agenda. It'll say like at the end of the game, you get bonus points for how many of this quest you completed or how many of this thing you own or like whatever.
Okay.
And that's the point. It's like you're supposed to, you don't tell anyone who your lord is. It's completely a secret. And
That's
you
cool.
just try and, you know, do what you got to do around the board to get the bonus points and also get points as you do it. It's very like territory control. It's like sometimes you basically each round you assign agents to acquire materials from like an inn or a castle or like something like that. And then the main thing is like you're recruiting adventurers basically. So you pick up these quests, and so you can't assign the quest until you have the right number of adventurers. And so it'll be like, hey, you need 3 clerics and like 5 rogues for this for some reason. So you have to gather that on the board to complete your quest.
Neat.
And like if people are paying attention, be like, I've been noticing you're going after rogues lately, so I'm gonna go after rogues now. And like, great, fuck you, you know.
Perfect. Okay.
So that's a tangent. Sorry, but
No, you're good. No, I think tabletoping is a game too, so I think it fits in this podcast. Sue me.
No, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So
may or may not have episodes planned around that.
oh yeah, maybe. One of the things I really think is cool about this is like the amount of detail spent on it. Like if you invest in like one of your cities that you've conquered, if you invest in like a sake house, you can recruit ninja to go do tasks and move across the map for you. And it's kind of like the game you're talking about. You pick a clan, and that's the clan you roll with. Every clan has bonuses. That's the clan you roll with, and you're basically all competing to be Shogun of Japan. And you have up until this year to get that done. And as turns progress, you'll get missions delivered to you. Like the clan that I'm playing, when you drop in, there's basically an uprising happening in your own territory. So you got to go put that shit down real quick before you can move any further. People will be born into your family, and you have to like choose like, oh well, they're gonna grow up and be a general. Should I make them the heir of my clan? What job should I give them as a general? Are they gonna be finance? Are they gonna be a warrior? Like all this, like there's so much to manage, and it's such a break for me from playing things like action RPGs and stuff like that. It touches a very different part of my brain.
Yeah.
And that to me is very enjoyable. So that's one that I've been playing. And so it's turn-based when you're on the map. Okay. But then when you go into battle mode, you have to like mobilize your armies and move them across a field and like pay attention to your terrain and stuff like that. Like, because archers can hide in the woods and you can run your guys down hills and get like bigger advantages.
There's a RTS game called Wargroove that it's a really popular game before that. I can't remember what it was called, but like similar thing. Like it's turn based when you're doing your turns, but then like it is like a mobilizing your armies, and like certain units basically get bonuses from fighting with other units, and so it's like you want to position like those group of units on like one area to make sure you get the maximum damage and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's super strategy heavy. So I know what you're talking about. Like I typically don't like those kinds of games, but every now and then, yeah, like if it's interesting enough, like I'll go for it. It's also a very delightful art style. Like it's I wouldn't say 8-bit per se, but like it's in the same vein of like those old Nintendo games basically is what it looks like.
16-bit?
Yeah, like nice. it has that same art style, but it's charming. I like it a lot, and it's fun. So
yeah, that sounds like fun, man. This is I know we just talked about this, but this is all realism based.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be warfare.
Yeah.
And that to me is, like I said, it hits me in a different place, and it's not as frustrating. Like I know if I fail or if I do something wrong, I don't feel like the game is working against me. I feel like I made an error. And I'm paying for it. I'm paying for it in literal lives at this point. Like
that does feel good. I know we talked about that a little bit in the artificial difficulty episode. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like it does feel nice when you can just say like, oh, I fucked up. Totally. Like I need to do better, or like, oh, I see where I fucked up there. Like next time I'll try this.
Yeah.
Like, that feels good. That feels like growth. It does not feel like you are slamming your head against a fucking brick wall over and over again and hoping that RNG favors you. Because we've played a lot of games like that, like we talked about in that episode, where like that's exactly what it is. You have to hope this enemy will not do that move at this time the next time you fight it. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Like it's definitely refreshing.
It feels really good. The other game I've been playing is Sekiro.
Yeah.
That's been a more step back into action RPGs and stuff like that. I was very harsh on this game the first time I owned it. Very harsh. And it's because at the time it's not what I was looking for. I was in the wrong place. But again, I'm going through this whole like obsession with Japanese culture. Again, some more hello high school Matt.
It's a good one. I was actually gonna say in terms of realism, like I said, I don't love realism that much. Like if a game is based entirely on like this realistic principle, If it's written well, sure. It depends what it is. I struggle to think of them though that I've enjoyed like that. I think the closest for same vein like Japanese, history and stuff like that. I think Ghost of Tsushima is probably like the most normal game I've ever played.
Yeah.
Just because like there's like magic quote unquote in that game, but like it's all superstition basically. Like as you explore the legend, you're like, oh, it was exaggerated, but like hey, here's this really cool armor still.
Yeah, no, it's great. I loved that game. That game was wonderful.
Yeah, that's probably the most normal game I've ever played. I like the fantasy flavor on all my stuff pretty much.
Yeah.
I actually love seemingly normal things, and you just sprinkle the fantasy on top of it, and then it's like, oh, okay, now this is really interesting. So I know what you mean. Like, yeah, I'm glad you're liking Sekiro. You might not think we actually do talk outside this podcast. So, I've been loving getting those texts. Like, I'm really enjoying this. Like, it makes me happy. That's actually my favorite Souls game. Like, or Souls-like, I guess.
Yeah, it's done really well. The initial things that I realized I was knocking that game for make sense for the character. And, like, I didn't like that you couldn't get different outfits and stuff. And that you couldn't get
Well, you can now, unfortunately.
Oh, lame. I'm not ever going to do that because, like, it makes sense. Like, for that character, it makes perfect sense. Like, no, why would he change his gear? Like, this is who he is, man. Like, it's perfect. I'm really enjoying it. It's hard as hell, but I like it. I'm boss walled, which is why I had to go find something else.
Yeah. The other night when you texted me like, hey, I hit that gatekeeper boss you were talking about, I was like, well, which one? Just so I know. Before I say anything, because I was like, ooh, nope, not yet, but you'll get there.
I guess the first like big boy boss, the dude on the horse.
Yeah.
That fight got a lot easier when I started paying attention.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this dude is totally parryable. It's like, wow, I should just be doing this all the time.
Yeah, I think I had that same experience a little bit because you're used to video games where like you expect certain things not to work with certain bosses where you're like, yeah, this works when fighting the normal guys, but on bosses it doesn't work. But like, no, I mean, almost everything you can do on the little guys work on bosses too, and like the game is built around that, and like that's really cool. And so once you take a step back and you're like, okay, like I need to learn when I can parry with this guy, like that's really fun.
Learning the actually hanging out with that trainer dude and learning that when they do ground sweep attacks, currently I don't know if you can get one, but I don't have a parry for that. But also, you don't need one. You just jump and tap X again and you kick him in the face. Like, how cool is that?
That bull you were telling me you're fighting, you can even parry that monster. Like when it charges you, you can parry the horns. Like it's really cool.
Yeah, that and firecrackers, man.
Yeah,
that was a...
beasts don't like firecrackers. There's a tip: you guys are stonewalled by a animal boss for whatever reason.
Yeah, no, I picked up that tip too. The place I'm stuck right now is the dude that lopped my arm off.
That is the gatekeeper boss. Yeah, that is the boss that if you do not put everything you have learned so far to practice, you will not beat that boss. Because he is a bitch.
Yeah, I can't. I feel like I'm not doing enough again, and that was still is my grinding point on Elden Ring. Like I feel like I am not parrying him enough and not hurting him enough. Like I'm having a hard time breaking my defensive and offensive windows. So.
What I love about Genichiro, however you say it, what I love about him the most, and he's not the only enemy that does this, but he does it the most, I think, from my experience. I don't know if you've encountered this yet, but like, if you react too soon to like what he's doing, he will change mid-attack, like what kind of attack he's doing. So like if you go, like you can like Mercury counter one of his thrust attacks.
Yeah.
But when you see him winding up to do that, if you go and like try and counter it too soon, he instead does a side sweep instead. Like really? The AI is really good in that game, and like it keeps you on your toes the entire time.
Well, good.
Never once did I feel like, oh, this is predictable. I know when he does this, I have to do that, which is a gripe I've heard. They're like, oh, it's just a rhythm game. You just know how to play. Like it is kind of a rhythm game, but a rhythm game that you have to like keep the tempo going. Yeah. If you relax, you're gonna get killed pretty much.
Yeah, or all of your progress.
Yeah.
You literally can watch it drain away. The other boss I'm stuck at is that butterfly chick.
Oh yeah.
I get her to her second phase, and then I feel like there's more to manage than I can manage. Like because I have the item you need to dispel her illusions, but like having to deal with that on top of everything she was doing before, because I barely made it through the first phase before.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, God damn it, I got to do this again. Jesus Christ. Okay.
If I remember right, she only has like 1 health bar though on your second phase. It's not too.
It's just it's hard for me, like, with that added element to put it all together again, because like when I killed her the first time, I thought she was done. I was like, oh, thank God. And then nope, you're not done.
Yeah, I would say she's an optional boss technically, but I think that she also is a form of a gatekeeper boss, because I would say that Shiro, you're meant to lose to. Obviously, it's a typical Souls game. You're meant to lose the tutorial boss. I would say that she is kind of a wall to the end of the tutorial, though, because that whole optional like dream world is kind of a tutorial. That's what it feels like to me, and so I think she's kind of like the okay, now put it all together. Because like I think I texted you this too, like, you know, shurikens work really well on her because she is a very reactionary opponent. So if you go and swing your sword, like, she immediately reacts to it. But if you keep changing your moves up, she gets confused, and that's when you get your window to attack her, basically.
Right.
And that's what all those skills you learn in that world is, basically. The stuff you need to progress is, like, you know, shuriken attacks, or like the Mikiri counter, and like things like that. So
my issues with her are the reason why I want to kill her so bad is, A, it's a vendetta thing at this point, and B, I really, really want I want to hit harder.
Yeah.
And that's the only way to do it. Like, you got to kill those kind of bosses. And I'm like, motherfucker, I just want to put her in a hole, man.
Yeah. Shiro was my first. So I immediately liked the game enough to continue my tradition of beating every Souls-like tutorial boss. So I started that game over and over again to beat Shiro, which was really fun. He is so much easier to beat in the game, though.
Really?
I was genuinely surprised to find that, because I felt like I got really good at the fighting when I finally beat him in the tutorial. And I was like, oh, I can do this. Like, I remember how to fight him. No, he's so much harder after that. Really? It's like he was using a fraction of his power. He was totally the anime badass villain. Like, he was using 10% of his power. Like, it's insane. But, you know, with that boss, like, it was really rewarding to feel like I was getting better constantly. It's like every time you get farther in the fight, or every time you finally parry that attack that, like, you kept getting hit by, it's like, all right, I just gotta keep doing the momentum builds, you know, like. So yeah, it got frustrating. I mean, tons of bosses in that game frustrated me, but it's one of the few games I can say that as much as it aggravated me and I got frustrated, I was having fun the entire time.
Yeah, I have even grinding in that game, because I did a fair bit of that. I also spent a lot of money on those talismans just to have a huge backlog, so I don't ever have to worry about not being able to use my cool stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool that you can just buy those straight up. But yeah, no, I'm happy to backtrack to kill that boss, because I advanced farther than I should have. I went to the gun for it and did. Oh. Yeah, well, I had the right item for that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, look, this item is incredibly useful for here. No spoilers, but there's a very specific item you need to get through that place, and I got it. And I killed the boss in there, and it's like, oh, there's a locked door, but I don't have the damn key. Where do you get the damn key? Oh, you killed. I had to look it up, because I was like, there's no way I missed this. No way. And I was like, oh, there's a boss here that I haven't killed yet. So that's fun. Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would say that I'm fully back into the hobby, which has been nice.
It's actually great we were talking about Sekiro, because that's actually my first game on my list. Like, games that I really love that people just, like, were not super into. And I think part of it's the stigma of that game.
It wasn't Dark Souls 4, and that's what people wanted.
Yeah. Well, also, ironically enough, too, like, I think people they're very close-minded about it, you know? Like, it's just a rhythm game, or, like, it's just, like, well, once you learn the mechanics, like, it's really easy. Like, that's one, that's any fucking game. And two, knowing the mechanics and being able to execute the mechanics are very different things.
Totally.
And I think, ironically enough, you know, you hear a lot of typical Souls fanboys be like, you know, oh, it's not a real Dark Souls game.
No, it's not.
That's why I like it, for one, but also because, like, I feel like it's the epitome of, like, get good, the credo of the Souls community. It demands you get good. And I think a lot of people did not rise to that challenge. I think that it was not Dark Souls enough to rise to the challenge.
Yeah.
And it's that typical, like, guy hitting on a girl, like, gets rejected. I don't want your number anyway, bitch. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. And
Wow.
I felt this a lot more, too, because, like, I don't want to talk about Elden Ring at all.
No,
I'm gonna say this one thing about it. As that game has come out, things like this have come up where it's like, I miss Bloodborne, I miss Sekiro, I miss this, and this. Man, the hate for Sekiro is alive. Every fucking Twitter feed and that community forum I'm in over there, I'm talking about this with people. Man, fucking guns are blazing. Like, fuck that game. It's not a real Souls game. Fuck that game. Elden Ring's a masterpiece. Fuck that game. Like, yo, all right.
All right. We know which camp you're in.
Yeah, so that was my first game on my list.
Really?
Yeah, so we kind of, kind of talked about it already. So,
Jesus.
yeah.
So first game on my list would be a GameCube game.
Such a good era of gaming.
Yeah, I'm actually going to talk about the game that... I'm going to talk about 3 games here. All same series, but I think they're relevant.
Okay.
So the first game I'm going to talk about is actually from 64. It's the second entry into the franchise, which would be Star Fox 64. Fantastic game. I've talked about it a little bit here. If you haven't played it, please do yourself a favor. Carve out 45 minutes of your life and run through Star Fox. It's wonderful. It's just it's a great game. It's one of my absolute favorites. So when it got a sequel for GameCube, people were like, "Oh yeah, another Star Fox game." The thing is, the sequel was an RPG. Yeah, did you ever play Star Fox Adventures?
I really wanted to. I heard about that game after I sold my GameCube and all my stuff because of the situation I was in at the time. So, like,
damn.
I was like, wait, there's a Star Fox RPG? And, like, I basically know Star Fox from Smash because I hadn't played any of the older games.
Oh, dude.
And so it made me want to, like, learn about Star Fox. I was like, this character's really cool. Like, what's this game about? And so, like, actually, that's one thing that Super Smash Bros. On 64 did for me was, like, these Nintendo franchise characters I had never heard of before. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, I want to learn about this. Like, oh, I know who Link is, but, like,
oh, yeah.
Didn't
know about the legendary Fox McCloud?
Yeah, no.
Dude's a legend.
I gotta say, I love the Star Fox universe. Like,
it's awesome.
Yeah.
So Star Fox Adventures comes out, right? Completely flips the formula on its head. People were like, oh, they didn't like it because it wasn't Star Fox 64, but then they actually played it, and they're like, oh, this game is great. Because it was wonderful. It's a beautiful game. But then they flip the script a second time, and they bring out a true sequel to, well, in gameplay, a true sequel to Star Fox 64, another on rails flying shooting game with like all the cool, like the Landmaster tank and all that, and the submarine. They brought all that back for Star Fox Assault, which people hated because it wasn't a sequel to Adventures. And as far as I know, that series hasn't gotten anything after that because people just rejected Star Fox Assault. I thought it was great, but I am the only person that has that opinion.
I would definitely play it if I can get hands on like a way to play it. Like I said, I love the Star Fox universe. I just have not played a lot of the games. I've played the one on Super Nintendo. I think it's on Super Nintendo.
Yeah, it's the original Star Fox. It's the very first one.
I have played that one. That style of gameplay, not really my thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of why I was excited about an RPG, because that is my speed. And I was like, well, I'd love to find out about this and see what it's like. You know, it's kind of the same thing as like, I don't really like Mario. Like, I'm not really a Mario fanboy, but Mario RPG is fucking awesome. So
I think knowing you like I do, Adventures would be very much your speed. But just based on things we've talked about before, the real story of Star Fox is in the world.
Yeah.
Like these areas that you're flying through and things like that. Like the first level is the capital city of the Lylat system, which is Corneria, and it's currently under attack. So you get to see like this city in destruction.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then like the bosses are really cool, and like because it goes from like that on rails Starfighter-esque game to when you fight the first boss, depending which direction you go. Mm-hmm. When you fight the first boss, you go to all range mode, which means now you're flying like you can go anywhere at that point, and that's really cool. That's always something fun to get. Like, you get to that boss and you get to fly the R-Wing any way you want. You're like, oh my god, this is so cool. Adventures has that a little bit when you go between different areas, like different parts of the planet. You do get to fly the R-Wing again, but it's not very in depth. It's not like it doesn't feel like a real Star Fox level, even though the graphics are better.
Yeah.
Assault was just like the original Star Fox. It was like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this some more, and I don't know why it didn't get the love, because it's exactly what people were asking for before they got the RPG.
I think it's kind of like just a little bit what we just talked about, like these stories in the world, basically. And with RPGs, you generally get a better story. You generally get a better focus on story.
Totally.
So I think that it's probably similar. Like, people really like the Star Fox universe, and so with the RPG, you got that, and then the other game didn't get it as much, and so that's probably why it got a bad reception.
Oh yeah, dude. You're probably hitting the nail right on the head. I mean, they even brought characters from Adventures into Assault. And people, like, they just weren't into that. Like, I don't understand, man. I loved that game. I played the crap out of that game, and nobody seemed to like it but me. But
what was the style of combat in Star Fox Adventure?
Well, without spoilers, it's very much like Zelda.
Ooh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, it's an action RPG for sure. Puzzle solving, minion stuff. Like, you work with a partner.
Okay, all right.
I'm not going to give you any spoilers for that.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You need to experience.
Someday I'll play it.
Yeah, just let me get a copy for GameCube and I'll let you borrow my whole setup. It's worth it, dude. It's worth the play. It's really great.
So I asked that though because this is more of a broad term I want to talk about on my list. I don't know why people hate turn-based RPGs so much. It's actually kind of like a thing where, like, the eye starts to twitch a little bit. Where I'm like, what do you mean you don't like turn-based RPGs? Like, what about them do you not like? I always ask that question, like, what about them do you not like? And it's always this really vague, like, it's slow, or like blah blah blah. And it's like, that's not a good answer. Okay, I will never understand why people hate turn-based RPGs so much. Two things about it for me especially. The first one being kind of what we talked about last episode. It's a formula you can't fuck up.
No.
And even that style of combat has evolved from like 10 years ago, from 15, 20 years ago. It's evolved. If you play Persona 5 at all, that's such a cool turn-based RPG. Like, it's really fucking fun. And there's various ways turn-based combat has evolved over the years to become, like, half action-y or like half, like, kind of like QTE a little bit, There's just all kinds of ways it's evolved, but the one thing that has stayed the same is it doesn't fucking suck.
Yeah, no,
like,
it's good.
You can't fuck up that formula. And then the other thing about that is that turn-based RPGs or turn-based games in general, they allow you to appreciate the game a little bit more because you're not just mashing buttons repeatedly and running through areas. You gotta take the time and think, like, what attack do I want this person to use? What attack do I want this person to use? Like, oh, this person's almost fucking dead. Do I risk attacking again, or should I heal this turn? Yeah. There's a strategy element there, as well as, typically there's like a lot of cool, like, cinematic value to being like, okay, what's this attack do? Like, wow, that was really cool. It's just, I'll never understand when people don't like turn-based RPGs. Like, it blows my mind.
Yeah, I appreciate playing turn-based RPGs for the semi-lax element you can get out of it.
Yeah.
Like you said, you can actually take a breath and be like, man, this is really neat. And, like, seeing, like, different stages and how they're represented in the turn, like Legend of Dragoon, for instance, like, getting to see a little bit more, like, a different angle in the world that you may not have had before. I thought that was really cool. I also liked the edition system. I think I would love to see more games do that.
Shadow Hearts.
Oh, they do editions there too?
Sort of. It's similar. There's a concept in that game called, like, the Judgment Ring system. And basically when you do almost anything in that game, like, a ring pops up, and then there's, like, spaces on the ring you have to hit when you do your stuff. And so same with attacking, same with using magics, even using items in the game. Like, item ones are much easier, but yeah, that's what it is. And, like, a lot of the items you can get for your characters, there are ways to, like, manipulate the Judgment Ring to, like, kind of be, like, more risk, more reward. Where, like, in the second game especially, but it had it in the first game, you can make your Judgment Ring invisible. so you can't see the pointer at all. But if you hit, it does double damage. So
Oh, really?
like there's all kinds of things you can do with that. Like it rewards skill. Like it's a great game. I'll talk about that in a future episode. But yeah, that's probably the only other game I've played like that.
Well, that's awesome. I didn't know that it existed in anything else. That's one of my favorite things about LOD is.
Yeah, I'll happily let you borrow it if you got a PS2 still.
You do?
Yeah, I'll happily let you borrow it. Both of them. Not the third one. Third one's terrible. But
we don't talk about the third one.
Honestly, truth.
Oh, cool.
I don't want to talk about the third one. But yeah, that's just turn-based games. I don't get it. I don't. And I'm someone who loves both. I like action RPGs. I like turn-based RPGs. I like what would you even call it? Like I even like Disgaea. I like kind of like grid-based combat. Like I'm not a big fan of tactics games, but some of them are cool, and Disgaea is one of them. I'm like, okay, this is cool, you know.
I don't like the silly characters. That's what I don't like about that series. I don't like penguins and shit.
I love over-the-top stuff when it is focused on being over-the-top. When it's not trying to pretend to be, like, badass, but also over-the-top. It, like, this is the vibe. Get with it or don't get with it.
I didn't get with it.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. But that's also what my favorite anime Gurren Lagann is. Like, from start to finish, like, it's fucking hype. And it's like, this is the pace. Accept it or don't.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get with that either.
That's okay.
We'll stick in the same vein. I'll stay with GameCube on this. There was an RTS style game that came out that this isn't so much that people hated it, so much as no one was exposed to this game. I only know a few people that have played it, and that's Goblin Commander.
Love Goblin Commander.
Super great game, right?
Yeah. I've got some fun stories of Goblin Commander.
Yeah, it's knacky, dude. Like, it's weird. It's out there. It was a completely fresh thing.
Mm-hmm.
The only RTS style game that I had seen on console at that time was the 64 StarCraft port, which you want to talk about things that don't exist? That's one of them. Like, trying to take something so perfect and put it on console. I just don't. Stop it. Wasn't one of the Warcrafts on console? Or Diablo?
Diablo 1 was on PS1. It might have just been Warcraft 3 or 2. I can't remember, honestly. But yeah, one of the Warcraft games on PlayStation, because that's how I played it. Because I didn't do PC, and I'm still very much... I don't really do PC much anymore. But yeah, that's how I kind of experienced those games, was whatever was on PlayStation, pretty much.
Yeah, so just don't. Like, I got very upset with that game because, again, coming from playing it on, I've been playing StarCraft since I was 5 years old. Like, that's when my sister got it.
Mm-hmm.
She got it the year it came out in '98, and I got to fail at it for a long time. I really enjoyed it, and then my mom was like, "Oh my God, I found it for rent for 64," and then she tried to play it, and I was like, she has a really ill opinion of StarCraft now because that's how she played it. I was like, are you kidding me, man? Like, just play it on computer. But yeah, and then I got that game randomly. I remember exactly how I got that game. My mom was really big on eBay.
Mm-hmm. I remember eBay.
Yeah, like she was really big on eBay. This would have been, God, I was in like 3rd or 4th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And she asked me what I wanted for my birthday, and I said I just want a GameCube game. And so she found that one on there, read some reviews, or like read some information about it. She goes, okay, let's try this out. Click. Showed me the picture of the game case. And I was like, yeah, that looks really cool. I like goblins and stuff. So she bought it and gave it to me for my birthday. And I was like, man, this looks really cool. I wonder what it's going to be all about. And then I put it in. I was like, this is an RTS game on console. Immediately, like, flash of fear. I was like, oh God, I hope this game is cool. Turns out, super cool.
Yeah, man. One of my closest friends to this day still, that was the first game we ever played together, was Goblin Commander. He popped it into the PlayStation 2. He was like, just try this out. I was like, all right.
You had it on PS2?
He had it on PS2, yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know.
Shout out to my buddy, Lazaroo.
Oh, nice, man.
Big fat Lazzy. He's actually really skinny. That's why his name's funny. Yeah, no. We were honorable. We never screen peeked. So yeah, we were playing the competitive mode, and like one of the funniest like matches we ever had was I was playing those like stone goblin guys.
Stonecrusher clan. Yeah, they're cool as
Yeah.
hell.
So I kept like pouring all of my resources into summoning like the giant like golem things
Yeah,
basically.
that eats them.
Yeah, and so I'd send my golem to fight his front gate, and I'd be like, just go deal with that. And then I would like stealthily like create like little foot soldiers, and I sent them around the mountain to attack his village from the other side. And like I just kept again putting all my resources. Like anytime I killed my golem, like I made another golem, just send it right back. And I'll always remember the time he's like, wait, why is that thing broken? And he looks at me and he's like, you son of a bitch. And he just sees my guys crawling all over his village, like blowing shit up.
I win.
Yeah. The other story was I lost, but I lost heroically, I want to say. Like, I was able to keep him. It was kind of the same thing. Like, I was using all of my resources to keep him out of my village. And previously, I had launched, like, a really premature assault on his village with, like, my people. And so it didn't turn out the way I was hoping for. I only blew up like one of his like buildings, and I was like, "Fuck!"
Damn it.
So like, I fought off his like assault, and he's like making you guys to send him over the mountain to fight me. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna meet you in the battlefield. And so I sent my guys out of my village into the mountain to meet his guys.
Oh no.
And like it was down to like I had like 3 goblins left, and like they were hanging in there for whatever reason. And we both like stopped, and he's like, "What the hell is that?" Because I had one of those drummer goblins.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, that's the sound of hope, Les. Because just over the mountain ridge came my drummer goblin just banging his drums.
Wow.
So that was one of my favorite matches. I lost heroically, I feel.
Oh yeah, you went out like a boss, dude.
Yeah.
Legendary.
So yeah, I love that game. That game's great.
It's one. I mean, I have a copy still. So if you ever want to get down,
Oh man, I love to. Yeah.
I still have that same copy that my mom got me.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
See, I play on PS2, so maybe different experience a little bit, but yeah, it was
Possibly. Yeah, I mean, I played through that game again like it was like way before I took my break, so like probably like 6 months ago.
yeah.
I played through it again, and I was like, still holds up. Like this game is still awesome. Like, it looks like shit on a flat screen, but
Yeah, that was the issue with trying to play your old gym of video games on like newer technologies. Like it really does become like a hobby of like, okay, I need to get an old TV. This old TV sucks up so much power to run it, but you know what? It looks good at least.
Oh yeah. It's like, god damn, why is this thing so hot?
Yeah, right?
I could heat a small bedroom with one.
Yeah, it's fucking 70 pounds, and like it's just a space heater pretty much.
It's a small tangent. Do you remember what it was like when it was a big deal and someone was like, hey dude, can you come help me move a TV?
Yes.
Yeah, you remember like I think about that every time I pick up my 32-inch. I'm like, I could carry this under my arm.
Yeah.
Out of my house if I
could
wanted
carry my TV over there under my arm. Like it's not that big.
No,
I mean, not maybe under my arm, but like I could lift it myself pretty much. Yeah.
Back in the day, hell no. You need like 2 friends and a 6-pack, and you might get that motherfucker upstairs.
Yeah, man. That was like worse than moving a couch. Like
I would much rather help somebody because TVs are the weight is in all the wrong places. Like that's all I'm gonna say.
And the shape too. Like the couch, you can just kind of like try and get through a doorway, and like that's annoying, sure. But like fucking like half the TV fits through the door, but then it's fucking ass on the back, like won't fit in. So you try and turn it around, like oh nope, too wide, can't fit through the fucking door. I remember one time we opened the window to like pick it up over the windowsill and like put it in that way because it was not fucking going through the door.
Yeah, dude. Inevitably, you always smash your fucking fingers on the door frame. That is how I know I helped somebody move a TV. I'm like, oh, yep, my knuckles are bloody.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, Goblin Commander. That's my second choice.
Yeah. Speaking of going back to the Star Fox thing, I have kind of a trio I want to talk about. And I feel like I just need to reiterate. We're not saying these games are all amazing. Great memories, great concepts, whatever. Not all these games on my list, at least, are going to be like, this is perfect, you know? But I just don't think it deserves the hate. So this is one that's really spicy. If you bring this up, people are going to be like, are you fucking serious? And that is the Final Fantasy 13 trilogy. I don't think I've heard a single good thing about any of those games from anybody, not even people who like Final Fantasy.
I never played it.
So there's the same things you always hear, like, oh, like it was a 3-part game, so that's fucking stupid. Or like, oh yeah, Final Fantasy 13 is a really pretty hallway. It's so linear. Like that's all it is. You fucking like run down the hallway, cutscene, fight. Run down the hallway, cutscene, fight. Whatever, fine. Um, each game in the 13 trilogy brought a fresh new perspective to every aspect of the game. 3 different combat styles, 3 different gimmicks. Sometimes the same gimmick but reworked to work or function in a different way. Um, each all 3 of those games were very unique in terms of story, in terms of what you could do. It was great. And yeah, it's got its problems. It definitely became really grindy after a while, which is really annoying. But I don't think they're the terrible, horrible games people call them out to be. Because kind of like I talked about in the last episode, like if you focus on like 1 or 2 things and like make sure those aspects are good, the game will probably be good. The game may have been linear, but combat was fun. The story was super cool. Obviously, it looked great because back then, of course, I think they look good even now. Honestly, like
Are those 360 releases or PS3 releases?
they were on 360 as well. I think they're some of the only Final Fantasy games that got a 360 release.
But that generation, though.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I think they look good even for that. So yeah, I don't know. I just hate hearing like people be like those games are fucking stupid, like or those games look terrible, or like those games are just so fucking linear and boring. It's like you're not appreciating them. Like look at the story, look at what's happening in all 3 games. And all 3 games have a very different feel, by the way, but they all work together in a weird way. Like it's some weird timey-wimey bullshit, like Final Fantasy, logic basically. But all 3 are super fucking cool. And the soundtrack's amazing.
Is that the one with Lightning? Like
yes.
Final Fantasy 13 and then Lightning Returns is another installment of it?
Lightning Returns is the 3rd one. So it's Final Fantasy 13, then 13-2, and then Lightning Returns.
Oh, cool.
And so in 13-2, they basically like doubled down on the combat system from the first game and reworked it a little bit and like made it a little more interesting. You get 2 static party members, but then there's the whole thing with that was like you can like recruit monsters onto your team basically.
Oh, cool.
It's like that was super interesting. Yeah. And it was so cool, especially the second one because like so basically you find out like as spoiler free as possible. You find out that you fucked up in the first game basically and create like a paradox.
Oops.
And so in the second game, all these weird paradoxes are showing up. And it's affecting the timeline. And so the big thing with that game is like going to these different points in time basically and like figuring out like, okay, so like this happened like 100 years in the future because this happened 100 years ago. So how do I fucking fix that? And that's the whole game, and it's really fun.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, and you get to see like all these different characters and kind of like what happened, and like immortality plays a really big part in the 13 universe because of how the deity system is structured. So like you might go 100 years into the future, but some characters are still alive, so you could be like, oh, what happened to that character? Like, oh, okay, they're a dick now, great. Or like, oh, like they they're there was like one I think who's like deified. Like there's a character from the first game who becomes like a big deal in like the church basically, and you're like, how the fuck did that happen? It's super cool, man. And then the 3rd game is just about you find out what caused the paradox in the second game at the end of it. And then the 3rd game is about Lightning trying to fix the entire timeline basically, and like, okay, so we gotta make the thing that happened in the first game not happen anymore. Oh, but also we gotta save the current timeline because it's gonna explode, and so if we don't save the current timeline, I can't prevent the thing that happened in the first timeline. So like
Jesus,
it's really fucking overly complicated, but like the
On
plot's
purpose.
really cool. Yes, the plot's really cool, and it's got this system where you have 7 days to save the world pretty much, and then so you can also go back in time after you've like done a certain thing up to a certain point and be like, okay, I saved this person, I'm gonna go back in time now. And you go back in time and you're like, okay, since I saved that person, this part of the timeline's corrected now. And so you get different items, like you can do like you continue a quest sometimes that like that person was a gatekeeper for whatever reason. So like because you help them out, they're no longer blocking you. You can finish your quest. It's super cool. Like
that sounds super rad.
Yeah, that whole trilogy is awesome, but because of it being linear or because of it being, I think a lot of people are just pissed off it wasn't Final Fantasy 13 Versus like it was originally going to be, but it's just it just doesn't get enough credit. I think it's really good.
Well, it sounds like a lot of fun, and I have yet to play a Final Fantasy game that I detest.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's that.
Yeah, so that might be cheating, getting like 3 games at once, but...
Oh, I'm about to cheat too.
Oh, okay, go for it.
Cool. This is a pretty hot take, and if, as it's been pointed out to me, if you're a true Castlevania fan, you're not allowed to like these games. I do. I love them very much, and that's the...
I know what you're going to say.
Oh, yeah. It's the Lords of Shadow 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were both awesome games.
Yeah.
Good story. Like, not at all Castlevania, like that we know and love, but I thought a fair shake at a reboot or a true blue reboot. I thought the games were really, really fun and cinematic to play. They didn't tone down the gore at all, which was awesome. Like, to me, it was a better version of God of War, and I still kind of feel that way. I like a lot of the way they handled things, like having Patrick Stewart narrate the entire first game, fantastic. The combat, awesome. I liked being able to make Gabriel do cooler and cooler shit. And then, no spoilers here, but the twist ending for the first game going into the second game, awesome. Second game, even better than the first.
Yeah, I think just to avoid spoilers, like, I agree. I think the story concept was interesting. I think it was executed poorly. It became kind of cliche to me after a while. I was like, of course that would happen, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I thought the gameplay, honestly, was just... It was like a patchwork horror monster. Like, it pulled, like, popular mechanics from multiple different games. And I just... Again, kind of like I was saying, like, the games it pulled that mechanic from... it was centralized to make that mechanic really good. And with the Lords of Shadow games, like, it was like a bunch of different gameplay mechanics at once, and like they did not get the same level of care from the games they were ripped from, basically. I just don't think they were smooth or like kind of, just executed right. I guess that's the whole thing. Like, I would say the whole game, to me, both of them, was just like, it's not executed right. I think that there was something there, but yeah, just...
I all I can say is I really enjoyed them. I enjoyed having to get different features for him to solve different problems, and then like things that previously were unreachable, like getting the studded chain so you could ride monsters.
Yeah,
fucking awesome. And like, oh, that makes a lot more sense. Or like, now I don't have to slog through this entire level. I can basically shortcut it because I've got this ability, or that thing I couldn't get before because I didn't know how to get up there. And it looks like I should totally be able to get up there, and then you get something new, and you're like, oh, dude, totally. I can get up there now.
Yeah.
And it's like, remember that. And, like, the completion percentage for every level will be like, oh, you didn't get something here. And you know what that something is. And, like, how the fuck do I get that? Like, just the replay for that, being able to go all the way back and, like, 100% every level. And I really, really liked the first one a lot. The second one I thought was also great, too. Like,
yeah, that's totally fine. I don't think I have like a disdain for them, but like I just did not like them.
I had so much fun with both of those games.
That's awesome. Like, hey, as we talk about, like, it's good to have those feelings. Like,
yeah, like
that's kind of this episode's about,
Yeah, no, I'm, obviously got thick enough skin. I'm not gonna let anybody change my opinion on that. Like, that game was fun. I like playing it.
Yeah.
Again, I still own my copy of both, so I still play both. Fun tangent on that. I've bought the sequel 3 times.
Really?
Yep.
Did you play all the ones on like 3DS and shit?
No, I never had a DS.
Yeah, I didn't either, and I was actually really annoyed that they had side stories on different like handheld devices. I'm like, fucking just make a game, god damn it.
Yeah, Mirror Fate.
Yeah, I think it's like 2 games.
Yeah, Mirror Fate 1 and 2. Yep.
Yeah, it's like, dude, just fucking make another console release. Come on, you fucking cowards.
Yeah, I bought Lords of Shadow 2 3 separate times from GameStop and had to go back 3 different times to get the actual game. Because every time they'd put Lords of Shadow 1 in the Lords of Shadow 2 case every time. I get it, like, My dumbass, I don't look at the fucking. I look at the back of the disc and then I put it in the thing and take it home. I was like, oh my god, I could have saved myself gas had I just fucking looked at the fucking game.
Ugh.
Yeah, I don't do that. I was very upset the last time. I was like, can I look at the disc, please? Before you put it in there, can I just look at it?
Yeah.
And like, she wasn't about to do it again, which I was like really happy about. And then I had to explain the situation. I'm like, oh yeah, we don't usually do that. These are usually really well labeled. I'm like, oh shit, it's happened to me. It's happened to me, I know.
I had that happen with those Digimon games I talked about in the last episode.
Oh yeah, you getting mixed up ones?
Yeah, I ordered the second one online because no GameStop near me had a physical copy like in their store. So I had to order it from fucking Texas.
Oh.
And so when I finally got it, it took like 15 days to get there, and I finally got it. I'm like, this is just the first game.
Yeah. Send it back. Ship it back.
Luckily, they were really cool, and they actually expedited the actual game to me. And they were like, hey, you know what? That's our bad. You keep it. We're going to send you the proper game, and like I'm going to expedite it for you as well. And I got it in like 4 days, and I was like, thank you. Like,
hey, good move.
Yeah, that's some good brains practices. Kind of talking about console releases versus like handheld releases though. My next game is Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories.
Oh god.
Oh, there it is. I love that game. I don't think any entry in the Kingdom Hearts franchise is bad. I actually like them all. I was tickled that they made a PS2 remake of Chain of Memories though. Because I admit playing that handheld screen is kind of difficult, but I love the card system. I love cards in general, but I love the card system, man. Like kind of like similar to like the turn-based thing I was talking about. Like there's some strategy involved, and like it's not just mashing A. You actually have to think about like if I use this combo, is it gonna work? Or if I use like this card right now, like there's value in like the zero card thing. Like it's either a zero card or it breaks all other cards. Like it's either higher or lower than every single card basically. So sometimes you'd be like, oh, I have this zero card. It's like I had like 3 0 cards in my deck, and it's like, well, these are good for like breaking combos. So it's like, oh, they're using a combo on you that's fucking 45, and it's like, ah, 0, I broke it, you know.
Nah.
There's strategy involved, you know. Like I thought it was super fun, man, and it makes me sad for the fact that it's not appreciated, but also that a lot of people skip that game because of the card system. And it's like it is a integral part of the story. It sets the stage entirely for Kingdom Hearts 2. And it makes a comeback over and over again in some of the other games that came out, because it's like, oh, like we found out about that in Chain of Memories. Now that mystery makes sense to me, because that's what Kingdom Hearts is. It's a delightfully complex story. Chain of Memories is so important, and it makes me sad people don't like it.
Yeah, it's just not like battle card games. Like even okay, probably gonna get crucified here, but I don't play Gwent in Witcher 3.
Really? I love Gwent.
No, I don't. I don't care about like some people have, like myself included, I don't play tabletop games on a computer, and I don't play card games on a video game. I'm sorry. Like that just does not compute for me.
They have Gwent as a physical game you can play.
See, I'd play that.
It's very expensive, so I've not bought it yet, but
I'd play the shit out of that.
I did play shit out of it. It's very fun.
Yeah, with a friend. I would do that. With a friend in front of me.
I love Gwent, man. I love Gwent.
No, dude. Like, to me, I've already beat that dead horse in a previous episode, but
that's fine.
I don't care. I'm not trying to catch them all in the Witcher world. Like, and it got its own standalone. Like,
I don't like the standalone game. It took what was fun about Gwent and made it just like modern Yu-Gi-Oh or modern Magic. It fucking sucks, and I'm not happy about it.
Yeah, I won't play it.
I won't. I have not played that version, but Gwent inside The Witcher, hell yeah, I'll play Gwent inside The Witcher.
I will not. I'm here to.
Dude, sometimes I just turn on The Witcher to play Gwent. Like I love that game.
No, man, I don't care. I'm here to slay monsters and get money, and the chicks that come with that. Both of them. Yeah, no, screw that, man. I don't play RPGs to play card games within them. Yeah, sorry, that's my half-baked hot take for today.
No, that's fine, man. What's next for you?
Last one I have to talk about is just a game I feel like got glazed over super hard. And that was Resident Evil 0.
Oh, yeah.
It was my first installment for Resident Evil, so I got a lot of nostalgia there. But I thought it was a lot of fun. Introduction of new characters. The knife combat to me was cool. Like, you could totally use a knife to kill zombies. The fact that, again, young and very impressionable, I was like, dude with the mullet and the tattoos and the Zippo, like, that's fucking cool, man. I was like, that guy's a real hard ass before I could say hard ass. Like, I don't know, I really enjoyed it, but going back and talking to, like, Resident Evil fans, a lot of people don't like that game.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't play it. Like, I believe it was also exclusive to GameCube. A lot of GameCube titles today. But I definitely don't think it's one to miss. I think it's really fun. Exploring the mansion is awesome. The train is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just cool shit, and it makes me sad. Like, to me, that was peak Resident Evil formula. Like, did you ever play 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, if you didn't have grenades, Nemesis was fucking impossible.
Mm-hmm.
If you had squandered your grenades throughout the game, you're fucked.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, like, was like the, what do you call that kind of game? It's like everything is incredibly limited.
Oh yeah, like it's the classic, like it's what a true survival horror should be.
Yeah,
It's like it's what Silent Hill does really well.
yeah. I remember it being a big deal when I like found like 4 shotgun shells. I was like, oh my god, I've got like 2 herbs in my suitcase and I've got 4 shotgun shells. I am fucking god right now.
Okay, nothing can hurt me right now. Yeah.
Yeah. That's like my opinion on Zero. I think it was like my introduction to that, and then I played Resident Evil 4 after that, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Like,
You don't like 4?
I do.
Okay.
But to me it was so different. I was like,
Yeah, ammo goes like fucking everywhere in that game, and that's
Yeah.
kind of when I like Resident Evil 4 too, and that's kind of, this is kind of like a double-edged sword here. I got more into the Resident Evil games with 4, and when their predecessors like 5, it kind of became like more action-oriented. But at the same time, I do think it's a negative thing because it went away kind of like from the survival horror feel and more into the action hero feel, which was not what the games were about originally, you know. I do think it's a step backwards, but I think the storytelling got better. So it's hard to kind of, you know, it's good with the bad, basically.
I think they did a really smart thing by casting such a wide net,
Mm-hmm.
and they caught a lot of new gamers and got them into that franchise. Keep in mind, you're also recovering from the bombshell that was the movie.
Yeah.
Like, that they just continued to make these
Yeah.
bad, like,
Yeah.
if you're gonna watch a Resident Evil movie, watch the CGI ones.
Mm-hmm.
Way better.
They actually recently made, maybe not recently, I watched it recently. I believe it's just called like Resident Evil. I don't think it has a catchy title. I might be wrong about that, but I thought it was super good. It's the only live action Resident Evil I've watched so far that I was like, this is super cool. And it's really great because the behind the scenes they talk about, like, yeah, we really love the original game, so we wanted to make sure we were as faithful as possible to them.
That's cool.
And they talk about like, well, yeah, we did change this part from the game for the movie to make it more sense for film. So yeah, that's why this was different. But like, even the outfits, like, I fucking lost my shit when the character playing Leon, because it's based on Resident Evil 1 and 2, I think.
Cool.
When he put on his, like, you know, tactical vest, I was like, that's the outfit.
Yeah, that's the one.
And he even had like the fingerless gloves and everything, and I was like, oh shit, dude, like, that's the outfit.
That's totally awesome.
Yeah, same with Claire. Like, Claire had her outfit. Like, they did a great job of staying as faithful as possible.
That's kick-ass, man. Like, would you watch this, like, streaming site, or?
I watched it on Amazon, I think.
Cool. I have a subscription, so I'll have to check it out. No, because, like, I think it was Degeneration is the one that came out when I was in high school.
Yeah, those are so cool. Yeah, I like the CGI ones. I think I just bought Degeneration actually.
I got a super weeb reason for watching Degeneration. It's because Crispin Freedman was in it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
his Alucard
That's
from
fair, man.
Helsing, and I was like, oh, I know that name. And I was like, oh, I like Resident Evil. I hope this isn't garbage. And I was like, wait, this wasn't garbage. It was really good.
They did. I think just like the last thing I want to say about Resident Evil. I don't know if you're done or not, but just last thing I want to say about it. the movies had the exact same problem as the games, where like one of the more recent ones I watched, they moved really heavy in the action hero kind of like
Mm-hmm.
feel of the movie. And it's got one of the worst gunfight scenes I've ever seen in it. And like it's like, okay, I know what you're trying to go for, but this is fucking stupid.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
come on, man. Um, and it's the same thing as games. Like, it moved away from its kind of like this is what it is, you know. Because with Degeneration, I think that it held the same atmosphere as four,
Mm.
and then as they went more and more on, it became more like six and like five and stuff like that, which were still okay, but definitely not four.
No, like I will say 4 is definitely the turning point, like you were talking about. Um, but I'll say the same about the movies. I hate when something that is like so horrible, like zombies were a serious problem in the first Resident Evil movie. Serious problem. Like
Mm-hmm.
trying to deal with people turning and stuff like that. By like movie 5 or 6, they're just a footnote. And I hate that.
I hate that they're zombies because they literally changed the plot around where they're like, yeah, the dead come back to life, and it's like, okay, well, in Resident Evil they're not zombies. Like they are zombies, but
Mm.
they're a mutation. Those are base level mutations of the T virus.
Yep.
They are not the dead coming back to life. They are people infected with the T virus. So it's like you're completely fucking changing the thing. And like, yes, they can come back to life, sure, but that's not what they are. Like that's not what the T virus does. And that whole fucking movie series, like the dead come back to life. If you die, you're gonna come back as a zombie. It's like,
Maybe, maybe not.
yeah, I don't know. We're like over an hour into this, so I actually have a lot more games. I'm gonna try and breeze through them, just because some of them are small, just a little nitpicking. I have a lot to say about them. Some of them touch on a little bit, so I'll try and be quick at that. I'll go for the. Let's see. Let's go through the fast one first, or the fast ones first. I've talked about Biomutant already. I think it's a better Fallout than Fallout is. It's upsetting to me people don't like that game because they're bitching about the graphics and they're bitching about the story. Um, it's a wasteland game. You just explore the wasteland. That's what the game is. It's better than Bethesda trying to make a story that's
Ooh.
subpar. The writing in Bethesda is bad. I've already talked shit about that. It's fine. Not gonna do that again. But yeah, Biomutant's literally about your surviving a nuclear wasteland, scavenging. It is focused entirely on that concept. It is a true blue open world game, one I actually enjoy for that reason, because it doesn't try and lure me in and be like, here's a super serious story, or be like, here's this really edgy thing. It's just like, just have fun, man. Go explore the wasteland. Go enjoy yourself. Go make a fucking toaster sword. Just do whatever you want, man. So Biomutants 1, Dragon Age 2. I know you don't like the Dragon Age series.
No, it's not my flavor. It's not. I don't have anything negative to say.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just it's not for me.
Yeah. It's Dragon Age Origins was pretty well received. Dragon Age 2 is shit on repeatedly for being kind of the same thing as Final Fantasy 13. They're like, oh, it's linear. These are cookie cutter dungeons. True. That's not a bad thing though. Again, they went heavily. I mean, the story's still good. All the writing on the game's still fucking awesome. They varied up your responses more, so you can kind of respond like a human if you want to. And then they upped the combat level, so like it's not just like a tactical, just like point and click. Okay, go do this, or like it made it. They kind of put it more in the action RPG kind of like category as opposed to like the tactical RPG. I'm okay with that. I actually don't like Dragon Age Inquisition very much, like in terms of what it is. That's the third one. People love that game because guess what? They went open world. That's exactly why I don't like the game. I just don't think it was done well, and had they focused on the right things, watch our open world episode.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to say about those before I move on?
No, keep going, man.
Sonic Forces.
Oh, Sonic.
I'm a true blue Sonic fanboy for one thing, and I fully admit that. A big thing about Sonic Forces that appealed to me was the fact that you have to make your own Sonic OC. And like I did that shit in middle school on like this. I wonder if that website's still around. I can't remember what it was called, but you made your own character from Sonic. You picked what animal you were, and you picked parts from other Sonic characters to like make your own fucking weird, edgy amalgamation of a character. I made so many Sonic OCs. Like I fucking love Sonic, man. I definitely got more into it when it became adventure and like that kind of like anime kind of like thing expanded.
Yeah.
That's what made me really like it. You can make your own OC in Sonic Forces, so that's one big fucking positive. Middle school me, and on the inside, very very happy. The music's fucking badass as always. Every Sonic game is badass music. All the level design was super fucking fun. Like I enjoyed everything about that game, and it just again like I think it's the reason why they went Sonic Frontier. You know, it's an open world Sonic game because this game was not given enough love. People don't like this game for some reason, and I don't know why.
I haven't played anything since Adventures.
Yeah.
And I loved Adventures, so.
Yeah, I mean, if you liked Adventures, like this is like next level. Like this is fun.
Is that good?
It's the good. Yeah, yeah, it's super fun, man. So another one's kind of like an older game on PS2. I played it on PS2. It's called Okami. You know what that is?
Okami, yeah, the wolf game.
Yeah, that game's beautiful, and
I liked it. Yeah.
The concept is really cool, and like it's a unique idea. And apparently, it's one of the worst selling games of all time. And I'm like,
what?
Why?
What?
Yeah, people who like that game, apparently, it's a cult following because. I mean, in my circle, I've only heard positive things about it, but
same.
In doing research for this video, I was like, wait, how did it fucking, like, really? Like, it didn't sell well? Like, what the hell? Yeah, apparently people don't like that game.
Dude?
I have no idea. Not even a little bit.
That sucks. That game was fun, dude.
Yeah, it was a fresh perspective. You know, we talk about that a lot, like, wanting a fresh perspective.
Let's see how a mythical wolf gets on.
Yeah, man, and, like, such unique combat and like puzzle solving, and like it was like playing a Japanese storybook. Like it was fucking awesome, man.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that game.
Yeah, that greatly surprises me.
Not
that you enjoy it, that it sold so well.
Yeah, no, like that sucks.
Yeah, that was like I said, in doing research for this episode, I was like, are you fucking serious? Really? It wasn't even on my list originally, and I was just doing some research. I was like, wait, really?
Did you ever play Yoshi's game? Yoshi Story?
I played Yoshi's Island.
So Yoshi Story was a 64 game that came out that we found at a pawn shop and bought. And that game was interesting, man. But I've met very few people who have played it. It's weird, for sure. It's like paper cutout backgrounds.
That sounds familiar, actually.
Yeah, so like the backgrounds move and stuff. You can beat that game in like. It's not meant for super long playthroughs. Like, you start out like it's kind of depressing because when you start out and you pick your color of Yoshi, out of like it's like a spotlight comes down on a table and there's a bunch of Yoshi running around, and you pick your one and put him in the world and like you just do your thing.
Really?
Yeah, but as you die, you don't get that one back. So, like, by the end of it, there's just fewer and fewer Yoshi on the table until there's only one, and you're like, oh, shit. And then you get game over, and then you gotta start over again.
That sounds endearing. That sounds great.
It's wonderful. Yeah, it's a really fun game. I haven't thought about that in years, but the comments you had on Okami, I was like, yeah, nobody I know has played it, though. Like, I don't know if it was, like, rare or whatever, but, like...
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the game is rare. It did get a remaster, so it...
He was also available in Smash Bros. Too.
Marvel vs. Capcom.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Fuck.
I don't know if it's in Smash Bros. Though. I can't confirm.
No, I think I'm wrong. I think you're 100% right.
Yeah, that was my team. It was Dante, Virgil, and Amaterasu.
Oh, nice. Holy shit, yeah.
Yeah, it was Team Capcom. I very rarely use Marvel characters in Marvel vs. Capcom.
Depends. Like, I used Dante, Virgil, and Iron Fist, I think, for 3. Or Dante, Virgil, and Zero is my dream team.
Oh, yeah, I did use Zero, yeah. That's very
badass. It's voiced by the same dude that did Ichigo's voice.
Yeah, Jung Young Bosch, yeah.
Oh, yeah, dude's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I hear his voice all the time.
The one of the original Black Power Rangers too. So he was Adam. I believe his name was Adam. Yeah. And the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
The more you know.
Yeah. The next one I kind of want to breeze over because the other two are kind of bigger for me. So the next one I kind of want to breeze over. Bioshock 2. Do you like Bioshock at all?
I do. I like all of them.
Really? Okay. Mm-hmm. So Bioshock 2 wasn't received well, and it was...
Freaking why?
Well, so the feedback that it got and some of the reviews I read are exactly the reason why I think it's a good game. So it's an interesting thing. So people thought that Bioshock 2 felt like it didn't have a impactful story. It didn't feel like that game was actually relevant, and especially when you come off of Bioshock, which is a pretty heavy title.
Yeah, definitely.
Bioshock 2 felt lackluster in comparison. But the developers actually talked about that game, and they're like, well, Bioshock 2 is meant to be a game where it's for those people who really like Rapture and just want to explore more of Rapture. Mm-hmm. That's what that game was about. It was just meant to see more of like that world that we created, you know?
Which is deserving.
Rapture's a cool place, absolutely. And so, yeah, I can see that where maybe the story wasn't as impactful, but that's okay. I don't see that as a negative because I am the right market for that. Where it's like, yeah, I'd love to see more of Rapture. That's fucking awesome. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm on board. Sign me up.
Yeah, I mean, and Bioshock was it's one of the few FPS games I like. So
yeah, there's a lot to it, and it was gritty, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like I played very briefly at a friend's house. I played it's like the name of the game was Road to Fiddler's Green. It was like a zombie game for PC. Super gritty first person shooter. Think like same era as Vampire the Masquerade. Bloodlines.
Okay.
Same era as that. So like super gritty, in your face shooter game.
Yeah.
Like had that weird like you could do things like if you read magazines like Read a Tattoo magazine and like had an article about like kung fu, like you get kung fu tattoos.
Oh shit.
You start beating ass like that. It's awesome. But yeah, it kind of had that same feel to me. Like
yeah.
I'm gonna shoot this crazy substance into my veins and do powers now because why not?
You know, I mean, I think the gameplay was very smooth. I mean, I liked it, especially when you could upgrade your weapons more, because the guns did start off feeling very clunky to me.
Yeah.
But as you upgrade them, like, they feel better and better. And I think that's kind of the point. Is like,
totally,
you know, I feel like that is part of the gameplay loop. So, knowing that it made, like, my final opinion, like, I'm not mad about it. I get it. And I think that, you know, again, like, the clunkiness kind of added to the horror feel because it's like when you're struggling to reload a weapon or it's like I really need to fucking hit this guy here but like my gun's jerking all over the place, like I think it added to that feel, so I'm okay with it. And it helped the player fantasy reward thing where it's like, okay, I've upgraded this gun, it's not shaky anymore, like this feels really good. Also it was rewarding.
Yeah, and the horror aspect, like I remember going through the surgical wing the first time.
Oh yeah,
I was like, holy fuck, this
it's
is awesome.
Just masterfully. It's a masterfully told story.
I really enjoyed
I did not. I thought nothing of it. The like mid game like twist reveal. I thought nothing of it. I was like, son of a bitch. You guys been saying that the whole fucking game.
Yeah.
They did kind of tip their hand a little bit, and I started to suspect half of that twist because there's that audio log when you're like going through trying to get to Andrew Ryan, the audio log of like your character as a little kid, and I was like, oh, I bet I'm that little kid. Yeah. Like I think they tipped their hand a little bit there. I was like, I bet I'm that little kid. But still, the phrasing did not stick in my mind at all, and I was like, oh fuck, he has been saying it the whole goddamn game. Like,
yeah, such a good story, man.
Yeah, man, and like having him have like an Irish accent like that. That fits like that. That's like a phrase you would expect like a nice Irishman to say, pretty much. So it worked. Yeah, masterfully done. Very, very good story.
Yeah, I love Bioshock.
Yeah. The next one I have, maybe a little bit like still brief, but depends how you feel about Lord of the Rings. So I really like the Shadow of War / Mordor games. Oh shit.
They're fun, kind of.
as it's been pointed out to me by my other friend who's very into Lord of the Rings, he doesn't like them because he doesn't feel like any of that stuff could have possibly happened, and so he's a very purist with the canon, basically.
Mm-hmm. As you should be.
My thing is that I think they're cool still. Like, it may not be canon, but like it's kind of like a treat to explore a world you like so much, um, without really knowing how the story is going to end.
Yeah.
Because you could play, and they had Lord of the Rings games as well.
Which are fun.
Yeah, I mean, they were okay. Like, there was that one that was kind of like the Baldur's Gate. I can't remember what that one was called, but I played that one a little bit. But that's kind of my point. It's like, you could play a game where like you're Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, like Frodo, Sam, whatever. You could play a game like that, but you know how the story's gonna end.
Yeah.
So I think that them going to an original character in like a different canon was a really smart move, because you don't know how that story's gonna end. You don't know.
Boy, do I have a pin for you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is gonna be brief for me, but I guess not for Matt. So.
My pin. Okay. So, what you just talked about playing through as the characters and knowing how the story ends. There's a game, I played it for original Xbox, where it's a turn-based RPG set in Lord of the Rings.
The Third Age?
I believe so.
That game's really good.
Yeah, I love that
Same
game.
thing, yeah.
Yeah, because like when you actually go to Moria, you see the skeleton fall that Pippin pushes over.
Yeah.
And that starts your own conflict down there.
Yes.
Great game.
Yeah.
I loved that game.
That was same feeling why I like that game. It's an original enough of a story where like you may be like following like under or like around the Fellowship and like the main canon, but you don't know what the fuck's gonna happen to these characters. Like, they could die, they could survive, they could become like, there's like this whole thing where like you could become like you could get like the ring wraith armor and like become corrupted for like your dude who uses the sword and shield. Like, that was a whole thing. You could there's a semi-alignment system in that game where you could be like, I'm gonna use this dark magic on my elf chick because I can. Like, there was a semi kind of thing with that. I thought that was really cool, and I like that you also got the reverse side missions where you could play as the bad guys. That was really cool too. And that game's just a very solid turn-based RPG too. Yeah, it's super good.
But again, you're like one of 5 people that's ever even fucking heard of that game that I've talked to. It's great.
Yeah.
That's great that you've played that. Like,
that's super cool.
That game and Dead or Alive 4 is pretty much my soundtrack to 6th grade. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's like that Persona thing where it's like, you understand Matt a little bit better now.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Our social link just went up a little bit.
Yeah, we leveled up.
Yeah. But yeah, that's just my opinion. And also, so I dislike them, the Shadow of War games. I dislike them for the same reason I don't like Lords of Shadow very much. I feel like it did kind of pull from different games, and it's just a Franken monster of like good mechanics in other games.
Yeah.
The cat. Oh, sorry. I mean,
all I'm gonna say, like, just pair like what you're saying. It wasn't fun to play.
Okay.
That's what I didn't like about it. Like, story, whatever. It just, to me, wasn't fun to play.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's fine. Just I guess like a tag along to that, or what I was saying originally. It was kind of a Franken monster, but I do think that like, so it pulled like the fighting from like Arkham Asylum. It pulled the Assassin's Creed thing with like the towers and all that. I think that it was less bloated than Lords of Shadow was, where it just took like basically 2 or 3 combat mechanics from other games and focused really heavily on those. They were great. I liked them. I thought they were good. It's okay to take an idea from something, just don't fuck it up, pretty much. And you got to kind of make it your own thing. And the stealth at least was really fucking cool. And besides, be real about it. That Third Age game is really fun, but like, wouldn't you want to fight like a bunch of orcs like sword to sword? Like, totally, that's how you'd want to do it. Like, it makes perfect sense. So that's another one that just I think it is probably purists who don't like it more so. I think that's why it was not really received well. I know the second one was received poorly because they're like a loot box thing inside the game basically, but like, I didn't mind it because you don't have to spend money on it. The in-game currency I guess is what technically is. You get that in fucking troves if you just play the game.
Yeah.
So like you don't need to spend. You never have to pull out your credit card. Like
Yeah, that was never my complaint with it. Like I said, I'm not a big stealth guy anyway. And to me, it felt like such a mandatory mechanic. I was like, no, dude, I just want to cut through hordes.
My girlfriend played that game without stealthing at all. She's terrible at stealth games, so like
nice.
you don't have to. Like you can kind of customize yourself to be like a swordsman too. Like
that's the angle I was going to, but again, like it just didn't have the draw for me.
Yeah,
I just didn't care enough. Like
that's totally fine. But you know, for me, I think it earns a place on this list because I think it's underrated. I think it's a cool game. You know,
I own them. Like
yeah, I did too. Yeah.
If it matters, I own them.
So my last one is kind of a biggie for me because it goes into a lot of the other stuff we've talked about, and I'll try and make it quick so the episode's not like a million hours long. So Kingdoms of Amular.
Never played it.
Ari Salvatore wrote the world, which I really love. He's probably my favorite author. He did what George R. R. Martin did for Elden Ring. He wrote the world, and then like the game developers built on top of that.
Oh, neat.
And it is a more of a sandbox game than an open world game.
Okay.
But it does have open world feel to it. Like, so it's a sandbox. Like has the illusion of being big, basically. But that's kind of why I like it, because not only does it have like a great character progression path, every single area you go to, there's a bunch of side quests you can do, but all the areas are centralized. They really double down on making this one area good. Each area you go to is good. It's not this massive world you have. It's just like it's a pretty big world, but it's not like this huge Skyrim world. Pretty much everything I talked about hating about open world games is not present in this game.
Really?
Yeah, like it's a really big one for me for that reason. And I'm sad because they made this game and the studio went bankrupt because it just did not sell well.
Oh no.
It's kind of a success story later on because they did do a remaster recently. I think another studio bought the rights to it, remastered it. I happily rebought it. I was like, sure, I'd love to see a shinier version of this game. It's great. It was originally on PS3, so there's a PS4 version of it now. The only thing I'm iffy on is that there's also a DLC for it now, and I'm like, I don't know if like this new studio put the same love and care and attention into the story as those originally put into it. So I'm very iffy on the DLC. I have not bought it. I haven't even played the game all the way through again, but I'm very iffy on it. But it is a success story to me that it was remastered in the first place. Someone cared enough about it to be like, I'd like to remaster that. So that always feels good. But no, I mean, the story is super interesting. You can make your own weapons. Like, you can level up your crafting enough to, like, make really good, like, you can make your dream sword in that game or your dream whatever in that game. Like, I want my big-ass sword that has, like, fire and ice on it with, like, fucking whatever, you know?
Really?
You can do that, yeah. The character progression is, like, kind of old-school D&D, like, inspired, which makes sense. Salvatore's a big nerd. Like, my favorite thing about it is that so you can be playing like standard like fighter guy, and you decide that like I'd like to learn magic. It's not as simple as, well, I'm a fighter, now I can use magic. They actually have a progression path for that, and it changes your name. Like, now you're a rune knight or an arcane knight or whatever it's fucking called. Like, it progresses down that path, and like you can do whatever character combination you want to, but they have a path for it, and it's super fucking cool. Like, it caters to like what kind of playstyle you want to have. And it feels really good. And like it doubles down on that because you can wield 2 different weapons. So you can kind of like pick like, okay, I have my staff on my back, my longsword in my hand, like whatever, you know. And I'll switch my staff to do magic, whatever. Very, very fun. And the stealth is much more rewarding to me in that game. I'm a big stealth guy. It's leaps and bounds better than Skyrim ever will be.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. And it just, yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the one that hurts the most for me is because like the studio went bankrupt. Like, it did not make the money at all to stand on its own legs, and I don't understand why.
Was it just like not marketed well, or
that could be part of it? I don't know the whole
I've
story.
never even heard of this game before.
that could be part of it. I don't know the whole story. I part of me thinks it's kind of a, this is super fucking indulgent of me probably, but I think it's kind of like a, flying too close to the sun story. I think that they put all their money into making this game as good as possible, and then the return just was not what they put into it. It sucks. I think that's kind of the thing we've talked about in the last few episodes. Is like, it's what game developers deal with nowadays. Like, do you make what people want, or do you make like what you want to make and like do what you can to make it good? Good games don't get enough love. I guess that's just kind of the point.
Yeah, I think that's like the whole general feel of this whole episode. Like, I think people are afraid to know what they want, so it's hard to give them what they don't know that they want, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, I know, but that's my list. So I think I had like 5 extra games. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good.
Yeah. Part of these were added because, like I said, I was doing research. I was like, "Are you kidding me? That game sold poorly? Like, fuck this. Are you serious?" I have to talk about that now.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's so those are my games. I'm sure there's more, but yeah, those are my games that just, or our games, I should say.
Yeah, totally.
Our games that yeah, we really love that people hate. So the point of this episode is that, like, we've ragged on things people like. It's okay to like whatever the fuck you like.
Yeah.
I also encourage you, though, any of these games we talked about, go play them.
100%.
Or if you have played them already, go play them again with what we've talked about and kind of see if you can see where we're coming from. Because, at least to us, these are something special. So
100%, yeah, like gems, all of them. Gems.
Yeah. I guarantee you would not see stuff like this in current gen gaming.
No.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I think there hasn't been another Star Fox game. People just don't want that anymore.
Yeah.
I guarantee if they make another Star Fox game, mark my words, it will be open world.
I think that's everything I had to say. Do you?
Yeah, dude, that's everything for me.
So it's gonna be a long episode. Next episode, same vein, different feel. So stay tuned for that.
Absolutely.
And, cool sign off phrase.
Cool sign off phrase.